Hey everybody, Anthony Alfredo here, and today I'm going to be showing you my iRacing settings. This has been in very high demand and something asked of me for a really long time, so I'm excited to finally make this for you and show you what my sound, graphics, driving settings, all those look like, just to help give you a guide on where to go and what things you should prioritize. Now, a lot of this is going to be specific towards what equipment I have and what equipment you may have, but hopefully this still helps as far as being a reference point for you. So first off, we're going to open up our options here. And this is my driving settings. So you can see here my wheel range, my force feedback strength, and I'm not going to dive too much into my wheel settings because I have a Sim Experience AccuForce Direct Drive wheelbase, and that has its own program and software that you could really tune the wheel to your liking or towards what you're driving. So I haven't really gotten super crazy with the in-game or in-sim settings, and I don't want to go too far into that. But I adjust my force feedback depending on what the car I drive is, but I mainly do that also through the Sim Commander software. So this is a good look at what I run with. I do run anti-stall clutch. I advise you to do that because even though I'm a real-life driver and I'm tempted to run no driving aid, you get beat really bad off pit road by guys with the anti-stall clutch, and if you ever spin out or something and the car stalls and you can't fire it back up, things of that nature can be really aggravating. So if anything, you might as well use the aid to your advantage, because if you don't, someone else will, and in this case just about everyone does, so you're just going to be giving up a lot in certain areas, even against the pros. I have my H pattern sequential shifter settings. That's, equipment dependent. And then, of course, my driver view is kind of just based on where my monitors are at in reference to me, where I sit in my SimSeats driving simulator, and much more. So we'll just kind of bounce towards the next thing. You guys can always pause the video and look if you want to follow things. I think when we get to graphics is where it'll get really specific. Options, there's not a whole lot. I have a couple custom text chats. These are all pretty much baseline, except my on-screen displays. I have all these graphical settings because I like to see them, even though obviously it's a pretty big box in the top right of the screen. I just like what's going on with my internet, my system, sound, and wheels, so that's pretty important as well. This stuff is pretty much baseline to my knowledge. This is coming from the sound settings, so I guess we can go to that. We'll probably end with graphics last because that's most important. Everything's at 0 except I turn my master down a little bit. That's mainly because when I'm in Discord and talking to my friends, I have their voice audio, pretty level with the sim. That also helps with streaming and recording videos for you all to hear clearly. One's not too much louder than the other. Obviously, I could adjust the iRacing sound in my headset, or you can go to your volume mixer on your Windows settings to specifically raise or lower certain programs, and that's pretty important too, because I have done that for iRacing. I've turned it down just because it's really loud at times. I'm using my headset and my mic obviously for voice chat and the sim, as well as my spotter, but sometimes if I'm racing by myself or just testing and I want to use a surround sound, I'll change the sim to that, and maybe even the spotter, but voice chat I never really mess with. I always use my headset for that. Controls, this is all pretty much based on your equipment or any hotkeys you want to map. I haven't messed with a whole lot of it, other than getting my button box programmed how I'd like, and the buttons on my MPI Simax GT wheel. It has the Rikmatech button box built on it, so I have a couple in-car settings, like my pit limiter for road racing and stuff like that. But my oval wheel, I just have a radio button on it, so a lot less to choose from, but that's because you're not really making any in-car adjustments while oval racing. Replay graphics, I have on max, everything, because if I ever want to record a video from a replay or just go back and watch it, I love having really high quality, really great details, so everything is checked on, everything is high detail. Now, last but certainly not least, and most important, are my graphics settings. We're going to jump right to that, and you could screenshot this or pause the video if you want to copy this, but like I said, I'm not going to tell you to do that, because if you have maybe a lesser graphics card or a better graphics card, you're going to be able to push the limits more than me, or maybe you have to tone it down a bit. So I have a 2080 Super in my computer. I want to upgrade to a 3080 at some point. The simulator I surprised my dad with and built him, that PC has a 3080 in it, and I run max everything, and even without adjusting the iRacing settings themselves, it just looks incredible because the graphics card is that much better. But the 2080 Super is pretty nice. I do have it toned down just a little bit. And you also got to remember I'm streaming and recording videos, and I don't want to hurt the quality of that too much. So it helps to turn some of this down just so iRacing isn't using too much of that power, because I need it for the live stream to have good quality bitrate and look good for you all watching, because I also make videos out of my streams. So that's pretty important. But my resolution is obviously my triple screens. That'll be a different video if you want me to show you how to set up triple screens in iRacing, because a lot of people just do the auto config, but you actually want to do go into the app INI file and customize that so you can run basically borderless window. It helps a lot being able to open up other programs while in sim, and in my case operate my stream and recording software when being in sim as well. So I've got max quality over max frame rate. I've got low detail on skies, high detail on cars, medium on pit objects, event, grandstands. Those are both on high. Crowds I have on low. Honestly, it looks so great when everything's max, obviously, but it does draw a lot of power and can lower your FPS. So I have some of the least important things, obviously, you want to turn down, like objects, particles. Crowds you can put on low, because it is a little weird when there's nobody in the stands. I will say when we were racing and the fans weren't allowed because of COVID, I had it off because it actually was pretty realistic. But now that they're back, you want to see something out there. I think it's all peripheral vision stuff. Some of the things you see outside the track do play a factor in your immersion while on iRacing and racing in general. So that's pretty important, those settings. I have draw all cars and all pits, but that won't matter unless you make sure your internet settings on the iRacing website are maxed out, because if you don't do that, it won't actually draw all cars or pits. So sometimes you can't see all the boxes rendering on pit road. You can't see all the cars ahead or behind you, especially when you're looking in your mirror and you can't see everyone. That can be frustrating too. So make sure you do that. Limit your frame rate to whatever your monitor hertz is. So mine's 144 hertz, so that's what I have it set to. If you go any lower than that, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You're just limiting yourself, obviously. But if you go more, you can start hurting yourself frame rate wise. This was automatic, I think, based on these settings. If I'm not mistaken, you don't want to go much more than whatever your GPU is capable of. Then you can see everything else I have checked. The only reason I have cockpit mirrors on max with 3 is because when road racing, I like to use obviously my left and right mirror and my rear view mirror. In the stock cars, it's not that important. You could just do 1 or 2 and have your rear view or your left side mirror, but you've got the one that is overlaid on top of the in-car mirror, actual rear view mirror. So those are mainly just because of my road racing settings, but it doesn't matter that much for stock car racing or oval racing. Show steering wheel, I only have on while racing cars with a digital display on the wheel. I was racing the Porsche the other day, LMP2 car, in the Rolex 24, those kind of things I've been driving. I want to see the wheel so that I have that display. But when oval racing, I do hide steering wheel, because in my SimSeats driving simulator, I see my wheel right here. I don't want to see another one. That's totally personal preference. You don't have to do that. I just think it bugs me when I see 2, because it just kind of throws me off. I see what I see that's actually around me in real life in my simulator, and I don't want to see it duplicated in the sim. So I try to limit those factors just to help with the immersion effect for me and make it a little bit more realistic. I think sharpening helps the detail a lot, but HDR, as great as it looks, it'll literally blind you if the sun's setting in front of you and stuff like that, which, don't get me wrong, that's realistic. I've experienced that in real life, but I'm not a huge fan of that sort of detail, because it could just bug me at times. If I don't have to have it, I don't want it necessarily. And it does draw a lot of power as well. So that's why I have that, heat haze, distortion, and FXAA turned off. My shaders high detail, because that's important too. I want it to look good, obviously. But like walls and headlights, you can check those on. I probably will for the Rolex 24, because it's a night race and stuff like that. Looks nice and kind of helps. But this is pretty much what I roll with, and I haven't had any problems Like I said, I have a 2080 Super Graphics card, so that helps, kind of give me a direction where to go with my graphics settings, and that's how I ended up with this. I think it works really well for it so far. Haven't had any problems, especially now that I've been streaming. So I've kind of stuck with this. But if I do upgrade to a 30 series graphics card, I'll likely increase a lot of this, if not max it out. But I hope that's been helpful for you all. I know a lot of people have asked me to do this for a really long time, and I appreciate your support of my channel, my iRacing content, my real life content, regardless. But that is what I use for iRacing. So hopefully those settings help guide you and in a direction of where you should be at. I know a lot of you are new to iRacing too, so maybe that helped explain some of the settings for you as well. So thank you for the support as always. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.